Good evening, everyone. My name is Philip Arthur Whitcare. Well, that sounds a mite pretentious, doesn't it? So I prefer PA. And I'd like to think it's just a coincidence that I was the first to hold the title of PA, or Public Attorney, in San Diego. I'd hate to think my initials were my only qualification. I'm actually a pretty handy fellow, to wit. I've been known to plow fields, sell insurance, audit books, teach school, run a commercial college. Hell, I even darn my own socks. It's true. Well, I've won the position. That's right. Yep. I took an exam, I wrote an essay, and it was deemed by the overseers of the DeWitt C. Mitchell Trust and the board of directors of the San Diego County Bar Association as being excellent enough that they awarded me the job in 1918. Quite a celebration. I've been wearing these tails ever since. I had just graduated in 1912 from the University of Kentucky College of Law. I don't suppose there are any Kentucky University alumni here. Well, I joked in the Kentuckian, which is the magazine for the University of Kentucky, I joked that I had selected that institution of higher learning because of its fame for fine old bourbon and large tumblers of it. The truth is, though, it's a fine university. It was one of the first state law schools in our country, ABA accredited and elected Order of the Court. And I also wrote, and this is serious, I wrote in that same Kentuckian article that patriotism has always consumed me. So I was therefore willing and eager to accept any position of public trust. I wrote, away with fame, fortune, power, position, and honor, my country calls. I know that sounds corny and cliche, I know, but I really felt that. And so I also felt that I was kind of destined to be public attorney. But then, speaking of country calling, came the Great War, which I guess you all refer to as World War I, which tragically means there was a World War II. Well, I had just passed the California bar, and I immediately enlisted in the United States Navy. That was some war. I lost a lot of friends. I still look for their faces. I finished the war as a first lieutenant in the United States Navy and the Air Service. I was one of 9 officers among 229 enlisted men in the 64th Spruce Squadron. You're looking at them right now. Fine fellas all. Well, I came back to San Diego in 1918 when the war ended. I was flushed with patriotism and my sense of duty. And so the public attorney job was the right job for me. I had my office just down Broadway here at the building that houses the Spreckles Theater. I'm sure some of you have been there. All right. You know, I heard just before I came up here, I heard that there was a fella who used that theater. What was that fella's name? Maybe you can tell me. Conan? Anyway, this fella, he used the theater for something called a talk show during something called the Comic Con? Sounds like to me something the district attorney ought to look into. Well, I guess a lot of crazy stuff has happened since I held the post of public attorney. A lot has changed, but what hasn't changed is the need. There are a lot of poor folks who need free legal services. On my first day, I walked into that Spreckles building and I walked up the stairs into my office and I opened the door, and there, waiting for me in the lobby, were 3 clients already pre-qualified and desperately needed my help. I worked a lot of hours in those days. But fortunately, I didn't live far away. I lived right up here on 7th, 1333 7th. You know what that was? That was the University Club in those days, a Spanish Renaissance building that was designed by one of San Diego's most famous architects, William Hebbard, who also worked with Irving Gill. And they built this building just a couple years before that, and the lower floors had offices and public spaces, and on the upper floors were bachelor apartments because, you know, that club was only for men in those days. So a lot of us officers who came back from the Great War took up residence there. And I understand that that location later became the home of the San Diego County Bar Association and its bar center. I guess the Bar Association has recently decamped to one of these terrifyingly tall towers you call skyscrapers over here. Well, I decamped too. When I got married in 1926, and I moved to I bought a house out in Point Loma. Brand new house, just built in 1925. It was 3017 Goldsmith Street. I loved that house. I miss that house. You know, being the first of anything carries a lot of weight, a lot of responsibility. You can sink even the finest, fastest ship with poor stewardship. So I am especially gratified about all the public attorneys that followed me, and that my devotion to public service and to serving the underserved remained the touchstone for all of those public attorneys and for the remarkable Legal Aid Society of San Diego that you all know today. I never got to meet DeWitt C. Mitchell because he died of pneumonia in 1918 during a horrific global pandemic, the likes of which we thought we would never see again on this planet. But I understand y'all have been suffering through something like that for the last few years. So it's good to see y'all here happy and doing well. Well, the thing is, that pandemic took Mr. Mitchell's life. But his legacy continued because of his trust that continued to fund the public attorney. And you know, you all might want to remember that when you do your will. You can live on too if you remember a legal services organization in your will. His continued after he died because his mother continued to administer it. His mother's name was Bertha, and she continued to administer his trust until her death in 1926. And you know what that will stipulated? That will stipulated that everyone, all persons who needed legal services and couldn't afford them were beneficiaries of that trust. What a legacy, right? And it further stipulated that the public attorney would serve only a one-year term, so Greg, you're past your time. And it also stipulated that the public attorney would do no divorces and no criminal work, only civil work. And it provided me a salary of $100 a month. So I may have been lucky it was only a one-year stint. But truly, I relished every single moment of it. Every moment of that public service. In fact, although I continued to practice law for many years in San Diego, when I finished my one-year term, I continued to serve the citizens of San Diego as their representative in the California State Assembly starting in 1923. I even served on the San Diego County Fish and Game Commission. And as I mentioned, I married my beautiful wife, Anne Elizabeth Oberholzer, in 1926. We had 3 children. Sadly, our daughter died at birth, but we had 2 sons who lived long and estimable lives, James and Philip. Philip A., my namesake, who we called Phil, but I almost named him Noble. And that would have been fitting because Phil went on to be a 2-star admiral in the United States Navy. And more than that, he befriended kings and queens, and I mean that literally. He was invited to and attended the wedding of a Prince Charles and Lady Diana? I understand that was quite a big deal at the time. Although I guess the marriage didn't work out so well. But I guess that fella Charles, he's king. Well, my Phil, he was buried with honor in 2020 at Arlington National Cemetery. I passed in 1948, just 12 days before my 65th birthday, and I'm buried with my beloved Anna over at Fort Rosecrans National Cemetery. You know, I'd like to think that maybe, just maybe, my life's work could be defined by the word noble also. I know that I am right proud of the exceptional and selfless work of all the public attorneys that followed me, and by the extraordinary Legal Aid Society of San Diego that was their successor. I give you all my heartfelt thanks and congratulations for all that you do to contribute to that work, and I bid you good night.
Well, that's a tough act.